What can you learn in the next 21 minutes? Well, we are here to find out. Hi, I'm Kiki L'Italienne, and you are watching 21 in 21. The 21 in 21 talks are part of Association Chat, and I have. Wow, what is this all about? I was watching myself. That was very exciting. And I am so happy that you're here today because let me tell you, if you haven't experienced a 21 and 21 talk, you are in for a treat. 21 and 21 talks are where invited speakers share their 21-minute talks about all kinds of things from roller derby leadership lessons to mindfulness and managing technology. If you can think of it, we've probably heard a talk about it at some point. The series consists of 21 talks, 21 minutes long, all taking place, and you guessed it, 2021. Speakers can choose to use slides. They can choose to forego them completely. As long as they don't go over 21 minutes, the floor is theirs. Now, if you think, gee, that's a great idea. I want to support Association Chat. I want to support the 21 and 21 talks. Then please do check out Association Chat on patreon.com/Association Chat. For this special 21 in 21 talk, we are hearing from Vern Schellenger. Now, let me tell you, I have worked with Vern doing this Higher Moment Mastermind thing that we do. We get together for a mastermind with people asking questions, needing help to get hired on Fridays. We've been doing this for months. And Vern is absolutely amazing, very personable, has a lot of great advice to give. When I ask speakers to sign up and to do the 21 and 21 talks, sometimes they'll give me like a 3 or 4 sentence kind of response, but most of the time they'll give me like a few words. I don't want you to get too excited, but today Vern is going to talk with us about his life's journey from unconscious incompetent to unconscious competent when it comes to networking and building relationships. Hi, Vern. I'm so excited to hear your talk today.
Hey, Kiki. Thanks. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the opportunity to share my story with the audience. I am going to talk about my 20 plus year journey of moving from, again, unconscious incompetent to unconscious competent in terms of learning how to use the skills in networking to build trust-based, mutually beneficial relationships. Now, when you go through any kind of situation like this, Albert Einstein has a great quote about the world in which we live. So, Kiki, if you could show the next slide. He said, "The world we've created is the product of our thinking. It cannot be changed without changing our thinking." So my goal, my hope is at the end of this talk, I will have some impact on the way you think about networking, the way you think about relationships, and be able to use that to actually improve some piece of your ability to build mutually beneficial relationships. So my journey began when I was working for Dunkin' Donuts. That was the first company I worked for. And over 20 plus years, I started as a baker in a Dunkin' Donut shop, and I left Dunkin' Donuts as the senior VP of HR and training and development. During that tenure with Dunkin' Donuts, I didn't even know what networking was. And if I did even know what networking was about, I probably wouldn't have cared. Obviously, going from baker to senior VP, there were some promotions along the way. So I kept getting promoted. Life was good. What did I need networking for? And so at that point, I was an unconsciously incompetent person, which is basically you don't know what you don't know. You're simply not aware, and ignorance is bliss. Well, then I lost my job. I quickly became aware of, oh my God, a broad, open, diverse network is absolutely critical to finding the next job. And I realized I didn't know the first thing about networking. So now I was the consciously incompetent person. And when you move from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent, something triggers that. It's usually some aha moment, and it's usually not one of those pleasant aha moments. In my case, I lost my job. So you move kind of from blissful ignorance to awareness. I was consciously aware of how incompetent I was at networking. I actually was lucky enough to have Dunkin' Donuts provide some career transitions services with a firm in Boston called New Directions. And they actually began to teach me about how to network. I was beginning to learn about networking. But Albert Einstein also has a great quote about learning. He says, learning is an experience. Everything else is just information. And as we go through a learning experience, especially for a higher level skill, there's going to be some ouch moments. There's going to be some frustration. There's going to be some times where we just, are dealing with it and it's difficult. And we're going to fail. And I just recently heard the greatest acronym for fail that I could ever think of. FAIL stands for First Attempt in Learning. And believe me, in my job search, I made lots of mistakes. I had lots of awkward conversations. I can remember driving home in the car at night saying, oh my God, I missed that opportunity to tell them this about me. I really didn't sound very good. I was really stumbling trying to communicate who I was and what type of job I wanted. I'd replay those conversations over in my head. But that's part, I was literally experiencing what Einstein says, it's an experience. I did get better at it over a 6-7 month period during a job search. And I finally had a conversation with someone who was a director of HR for a large Dunkin' Donuts franchisee. And we had a great conversation, and almost getting ready to hang up the phone. And she said, oh, Vern, hold on just a second. She said, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I actually had a conversation with an executive recruiter in New York who was looking for a VP of HR position, and it was located in Maryland. Are you open to relocation? I said, yes, I'd be open to relocation. I contacted the executive recruiter, interviewed with her, went to New York to the headquarters, went down to Maryland, got the job. So I said to myself, wow, this networking thing finally did really work. That's the next slide, Kiki. And of course, since that time, if you're in the job search process, I've learned every survey, every research study that's been done, 70% of all jobs are found through networking. So I moved to Maryland, and what appeared to be a tremendous opportunity at the beginning of the whole interviewing process turned into a nightmare. The person who was to be my boss was like one person during the interviewing process, and then a different person after the interviewing process. And we just butted heads. We had a different way to look at HR. And again, this was my first experience after being in one company for 20 plus years. So I was pretty naive about certain things. And in less than a year, I was fired. So here I was, I moved from Boston, I moved to Maryland. Obviously, in the new job, I was concentrating all my efforts on trying to be successful, and certainly didn't have any time to build any kind of network in Maryland. And now I'm conducting my second job search within less than a year. So I was able to get an informational interview with a woman named Angela Spicer, who was the vice president of human resources at the American Chemistry Council. Informational interview, people said Angela's she knows everybody in the HR community in Metro DC. She could probably give you some good contacts and maybe even knows about a couple of jobs. Had the informational interview, and at the end of the interview, Angela said to me, I'm actually going to begin to recruit for a director of human resources here at ACC. Would you be interested? I said, yes. And lo and behold, I got the job with Angela. And it was a great experience working for her, and worked for her for about 3 years. And then out of the blue, I got a call from a recruiter, business development individual who I had met prior to taking the job at the American Chemistry Council. This was when I was searching for the job. And I had told her about my experience at New Directions. And she called me out of the blue and said, Vern, I remember you telling me about career directions and how New Directions, and how you thought they were like the gold standard of career transition services. What they did and how they did it, and you felt it was the highest level of customer service you've almost ever experienced. And she said, you told me that someday you thought you might want to be in this field. And I said, yeah, Betsy, that's everything I told you. She said, well, Lee Heck Harrison is now recruiting for Vice President of Professional Services for the Metro DC region. Would you be interested? Now, again, I didn't even know this job existed, but she called me. She recommended me to the general manager and the vice president, and I interviewed and I got the job. What happened with Betsy and me in that conversation is fundamental to what I'd like to share with you about networking and building relationships today. And if you take nothing away from this talk, if you remember nothing, remember what you see on this slide. I'd encourage you to write this down. Networking is not about talking and taking. Networking is about teaching and giving. Networking isn't about talking and taking, it's about teaching and giving. So networking certainly isn't manipulative, certainly not one-sided, not just for introverts, not just for job hunters, sales professionals, and it's certainly not optional in today's workplace where almost everything needs some type of collaboration. What it is, it's about teaching and giving, teaching people what you're good at and interested in, and learning those same things about them. So in the exchange that Betsy and I had 3 years ago, I had taught her a lot about New Directions. I had communicated my desire to be in this field. And I don't know how she remembered it 3 years later, but she did. So I taught her about that, and she gave back to me an opportunity for the dream job of my life at that point in time. Conversely, it's teaching and giving. And so during that 3 years, Betsy was a recruiter, and when she had open positions she was trying to recruit for, she would call me and I would recommend candidates for her and try to help her in some way. So it's all about teaching and giving, and it's lots of learned behaviors, as you'll see in a little while when I share some of the competencies with you. And it's everything you do to build relationships. It's not just going to networking events. In fact, I believe that a lot of the conversations we have with other individuals have the potential to become mutually beneficial, trust-based relationships if you know how to network and how to network effectively. So the next slide, Kiki, I found this now. Wow, this networking thing works even when I'm not looking for a job. I was actually pretty happy at the American Chemistry Council, and Angela was one of the best bosses I'd ever worked for, but this was in fact my dream job. So I went to work for Lee Heck Harrison, had a staff of consultants, and every week we worked with hundreds of clients through the job search process. And obviously one of the things that we were teaching them was how to network. So next slide, Kiki. So now I'm consciously competent. I've actually acquired the skills and knowledge. I was now teaching others how to network. Well, I eventually left Lee Heck Harrison for a better opportunity. And at the new organization, I was working with an executive coach. And she said to me, Vern, whenever I hear you talk about networking and career management, she said, I hear so much passion, I hear so much energy. She said, you ought to think about when these instances occur, journal them. reflect on them. I said, okay, Patricia, I'll try to do that. And it wasn't too long after that I came home one night from a long day at work. And if you're familiar with the Metro DC area at all, long commutes in and out of work, I was really tired. My wife said to me, one of my clients said her husband just lost his job. Would you be willing to talk to him? I said, certainly. And I said, I'll contact him in the next day or two. And she said, well, I told him you'd call him tonight. I said, okay. So I called him. We actually talked for 45 minutes to an hour. I got up from the chair and walking upstairs from the office, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, oh my God, I'm awake. I'm energized. I'm feeling great. And I'm thinking about all the things that we talked about. And I said, Patricia was right. Wow, and I actually sat down and journaled that and I reflected on it. And I said, this is the place that I need to be in terms of, this is clearly where I want to be in my career. So I told that to Patricia the next time I had the meeting with her as the executive coach. And she said to me, you need to talk to Lynn Wayman. Lynn and her sister Ann just wrote a book. It's called Make Your Contacts Count. And so I reached out to Lynn. We had a great conversation. She sent me the book. I read the book. Best stuff I'd ever read about networking ever, including Lee Heck Harrison, including New Directions. This was better than anything that I'd experienced in networking. And I continued conversations with Lynn, and she said, we're about to try to expand our small consulting firm, and we're looking for people who want to be certified as consultants. And I raised my hand and said, absolutely, I'm ready. So I think I was the first person they certified. And that was in 2007. And since then, I've worked, with the contacts count material in lots of different ways. And so this is what took me with contacts count to unconsciously competent. And this is when you've mastered a skill. This is when the skill comes naturally to me. You don't even need to think about it. And that's pretty much what I do every day. I just think about, I don't even have to think about it. I do it kind of automatically. Now, part of the way that I became unconsciously competent with contacts count was because the team there really, we did a lot of research. We did interviews. We did surveys. We wrote about it. We looked at what are the skills that people need, the behaviors, and we developed 8 specific competencies. And each of those competencies has skills, behaviors, tools, and strategies that if we use those to teach people how to network, they got better. And along the way, we learned lots of things. And one of the things we learned was a number of people don't necessarily like to network. A number of people have a negative impression about networking. And in developing those 8 competencies and all the work we did behind the scenes, we learned why. It's because a lot of people simply didn't know how to network. And by how, I mean knowing what to say, when to say it, how to say it. When an opportunity is presented to you to communicate your expertise, to teach you about yourself, most people miss those opportunities. Best example I can give you is the what do you do question. You go to a networking event and somebody says, what do you do? And you say you're the vice president of human resources. Well, you really, first of all, didn't answer the question, and it doesn't tell them anything about you. So we've got these, we develop these skills and behaviors to teach people, okay, here's what you say when somebody asks you, what do you do? And you see that, these are the 8 competencies, which I'll run through pretty quickly. But before I do that, the last thing we learned, besides people not knowing how to network and not knowing how to network, was that it didn't matter when we started training people. It didn't matter your profession. It didn't matter your industry, didn't matter your age, your gender, whether you told us you were an introvert, whether it was a for-profit, a not-for-profit, government agency, law firm, CPA firm, MBA students. We've worked with pretty much every population. And when people take a dedicated approach, we've been able to improve people's networking skills. And so it really is possible, but it's a learning experience, as Einstein said. It takes time and effort. You'll make mistakes as you go through this. And so, Kiki, are we okay for time? Have I got time to run through these 8 competencies real quick?
Yes, I will allow it.
Okay, thank you. Well, it'll be real quick. Obviously, you can see there's a lot on these slides. But the first competency is simply your networker identity. This is how you think, how you feel, how you approach networking. And this is foundational. You've got to have this positive approach. You need to think networking is about teaching and giving. Taking a strategic approach, you spend time, sometimes money networking. Make sure you're getting the return on investment. Envision your ideal network. We all have at least 4 networks, specific networks that we can develop. Developing trusting relationships is about the actual conversations you have. And what's the stage of the relationship you're at with this particular person, which influences what you say, how you say it. Go to the next slide, Kiki. Increase your social acumen is everything from, we can actually teach you how to remember names to sometimes dealing with the awkward situations that come up in networking. Deepening interactions, this is about the giving. And this is where you learn about other people and as much as you can about them so you can give back. Communicating your expertise is about teaching. And last but not least, when you become really good at networking, maybe you've mastered it, your skills, the skills of the people in your network almost always create new value in whatever situation you're in. So we like to think about making networking an art, not an accident. And if you really want to know anything more about these skills, we actually have created an online assessment that you can take in 20 minutes. It's 40 questions. It does cost $40, but I'll provide free, no obligation, 30-minute call to review your results. So if you're interested in that, you can contact me either at the email that Kiki has put up or this email at Vern at Contacts Count. And please reach out to me with anything that any questions or any comments you have about the presentation. Welcome the opportunity to connect. I'm done, Kiki.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate learning a little bit more about your journey from unconscious incompetent to unconscious competent. And I feel like if I employ some of these tricks and tips and things that you've taught us along the way, that I too will be able to network a little bit better when I go out to meet people.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky because I know you, so I can reach out.
Well, let me say just one more thing. A lot of my examples obviously were about my career and networking and finding a job, but I know a lot of folks on the call are in the association world. Mm-hmm. So think about using these with your members, learning as much as you can about the members of the association. What are their problems? What are their issues? How can you add value? How can the organization, how can the association add value to their membership? Which I'm sure a lot of people are doing already, but there's so many different ways to use these skills in building relationships.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. And how about all of you? I hope you learned something special today. I know I did. We've taken the past 21 minutes and we've learned all about, ways that we can incorporate some of the lessons that Vern shared with us into our own lives, about ways that we can think about networking in a different way. And what I really want you to think about are the questions that you have right now, because by asking questions, we can learn more. And we always hope to learn more every day. So as we like to say in association chat, this old Joseph Campbell quote, Keep asking questions to learn every day because, as Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.